Welcome to the Go Grava channel. So if anybody's been following my journey, you know that I opened a bike shop in 2024, which was probably the worst time in the history of opening bike shops to open a bike shop. Maybe not since the bike crash in the 70s, maybe. And we've been doing it. Like, we've been surviving, barely surviving. And my motto's always been, if I can survive this, the bike shop's going to be fine no matter what happens. But first year was awful, if you know the story. Second year we did better, but our bike shop's starting to crack here as we head into 2026. Is the economy starting to crack? That's what I want to get into. I have some notes here and some graphics I'm going to put up since I'm a hobby economist, but just to give you the rundown of my experiences in the bike shop, first year is awful. Second year, we 3x gross sales receipts, which is fantastic, and gives me some motivation, right? I 3x'd on my second year, but I'm still probably down 30% of where this square footage should be. My turn rate's still down 30% of where my turn rate should be. So even though I am seeing some personal success, like this is a psychological thing, like second year into business, we're doing fantastic, but in reality, we're still down, probably like a lot of bike shops are. But in this video, we're going to talk about really the economic signals I see, because there are decisions that I have to make about inventory for 26. Do I try to hire in 26? How aggressive do I get with community outreach in 26? How much money do I plan to spend? How much money should I save? And the indicators are really all over the place right now for the economy. And so let me get through our second year journey and just summarize that. 2024 was a tough time opening. We tripled gross sales receipts, maybe 3.2 times in 25. We're still 30% below where I think we should be. And this all matters because I got to make predictions for next year. So let's look at the local anecdotal information that I have from this last weekend. Now, since I work almost every single day, all the time on this business, since it's a new business, I hadn't been out to eat in a long time. So I got a gift card for my birthday. I'm 52 years old, and it was from Texas Roadhouse. So on Saturday, I took me and the wife to Texas Roadhouse. The kids were out at Scouts camping, and it was an hour and a half wait. Texas Roadhouse was slammed with business, just absolutely slammed. Economic signal, things look great, right? Same thing, we walked from Texas Roadhouse, there's a Target near us, and we walked down that shopping center while we were waiting our hour and a half. We had to wait an hour and a half to get a seat, and just people shopping, parking lot packed. So me locally, looking at that says the economy must be doing really, really well. I mean, that is what I see. I mean, I don't know how your areas are, but that is kind of what I see. Now, as far as the national economy, it's kind of a different story, and I'm going to put up some slides here, but monthly change in non-farm employment. And these are some of the signals that worry me for 26, or at least worry me for this winter. How are we going to survive the winter? Even though I still got work coming in, every day I got work to do in the bike shop, and it's cold in this November. That's a good sign that people are still coming into my bike shop. But employment gains are really decreasing. So let's look at this chart here. We look at monthly change in non-farm employment, and it doesn't look good. Like, we are really just driving this thing right into the ground. I think we took a loss of 22,000 or something in September. We don't know what the numbers are for October, because we are just ended the government shutdown, I think, yesterday. And we haven't got any of the government data on unemployment and things like that. But that chart alone, non-farm employment, shows that the national economy is not doing good. It is slowing down significantly right to the ground, and it's going to go below that basement level soon. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is, since we don't have government data, I'm going to use a couple different sources. One of them is Challenger, Gray, and Christmas. There are these private companies that do economic reports for large corporations and businesses, and you get, you got to pay to get the data, but some of the information they put out is free. So we'll look at one of the free reports or free things I found online, And layoffs hit the highest level for the month since 2003. Hiring slows to the lowest point in 14 years. That's not a good signal, right? That is not a good signal for the economy coming into the winter season. I mean, hiring is, really as a company, you're either not laying a lot of people off and you're hiring a lot, or you're not hiring as much and you're not laying people off, or you stop hiring and you're laying people off. That's probably the three scenarios you have as a company. Any company out there. And we look at some of these things in this report from Challenger Gray and Christmas. Retailers announced 2,400 job cuts in October, down from the 2,577 the previous month. But so far in 2025, retail has announced 88,000 job cuts. That's a 145% increase from October of last year. That is a big increase in job cuts in retail, and retail is suffering pretty bad right now, which shows you that consumer spending habits, consumers are worried about their jobs, and if they're worried about their jobs, they're not going to be spending on discretionary, which has an impact on bike shops. The services sector which also provides, services sector includes those who provide support to other businesses like cleaning, staffing, outsourcing. 1,990 job cuts in October, down from the 6,290 in September. But year to date, the job cuts in the service sector are up 62% from October of last year. Again, showing that we have a lot of cuts, that the economy is stalling. Warehousing. Warehousing saw, and this is locally too. I have a guy who bought an e-scooter from me, one of the big fast ones we got. And he said they just finished their 5th round of cuts in 2025 for employment. He still kept his job. He's still doing well. But that warehouse in Reading, Pennsylvania, or around Reading, has been cutting. They were on their 5th cut in October to their staff. And so warehousing sector has cut 90,000 jobs. It's a 378% increase from October of last year. That is huge. That means that we're seeing a slow in the overall manufacturing and movement of goods around the country if warehousing is cutting 378%. And the last signal is nonprofits, right? So what happens when people are tight on money? Nonprofits lose those donations and that money coming into their nonprofit. And they are at a 419% increase compared to October of 2024. 419%. That means less people are donating to nonprofits. So these all signal that things aren't going well in the economy right now, even though the stock market's high, and even though I see Texas Roadhouse is packed, overall the economy seems to be suffering in the consumption sector and in the donation and the nonprofit sector. So when we look at job cuts from Challenger altogether and their chart there, October of 25 is right now matched that of 2003. So when the dot-com bubble burst, it wasn't like everybody lost their jobs right away. It kind of creeped through 2001, 2002, 3, even all the way up to 2005 when we saw a lot of bankruptcies from airlines, 2004, 2005, I believe it was. And but we are higher than October of 2008 during the beginning of that crash. Now, I'm taking out the data from the virus issues and stuff like that, where we had a bunch of job cuts. But it is a signal. It is a signal that we are up in October when you think seasonal hiring should normally be up this time of year, and we're not. We're seeing a lot of job cuts. And then one of the people I follow is Eurodollar University on YouTube. I did take a shot of one of his charts there, the BLS JOLTS data. And this one's important because it's as a percentage of civilian non-institutional population, right? So it's not government jobs or anything like that. It's non-institutional. It's just civilian payrolls. And we are seeing a pretty good drop in the job openings losses that percentage there. And as this thing's been tanking, going into the dirt, we're starting to see reminiscence of 2008 and 2000. We're just, the job market is just not secure. That's another data point. The other one, as people are losing jobs, or maybe they're just spending too much money, the amount of household debt that consumers or us as individuals, now I have debt also, but it's business debt that I've taken on these last 2 years and worked through that and stuff. But as personal debt and as unemployment increases, you're going to see an increase in personal debt. And we see that right now. We see a pretty stark increase in personal debt as it's going up here into the Christmas season. Very, very similar to what had happened in 2007, 2008. Now, I'm not saying this is all the same, right? It's not exactly the same, but it rhymes. These recessions that we're seeing here, previously the dot-com recession and the 2008 recession, they're never going to be exactly the same, but it does rhyme. They seem very similar. And then we go into student loan debt. How seriously delinquent are people on student loans? So we get this big gap in this chart here where people didn't have to pay their student loans, and now they came out of paying where they had to pay student loans, and we have this big spike in student loan delinquencies where people are not even paying their student loans. And if they can't pay their student loans, then they can't buy a bicycle in a bike shop. So not great news. And lastly, when we talk about the ISM Purchasing Managers Index, you'll see a lot of bad things I won't put up all the charts, but basically survey of purchasing managers or how much stuff people or companies are purchasing for production and then import into the U.S. and warehousing. That has stayed pretty low for the last couple of years, and it is dipping down. Like there's a certain number like 53, some say 53, some say 50. We've been consistently staying pretty low, which is another indication of recession. And there's other things out there too, which is cardboard boxes. Like cardboard box industry has been tanking right now because we're just not shipping as much stuff as we used to. And if you're not shipping enough stuff, some stock analysts figured out that if you track the cardboard box industry, that's a great way to get a movement, see how the economy's moving. I don't have that with me, but that's another indication looking at purchasing manager indexes. When they're tanking, when they're going down, they're staying below a certain level. That indicates that the economy is weak. It is not strong, even though the stock market says that the economy is fairly strong. So the overall signal here, and let me wrap this up real quick without getting too far into the weeds on everything, but the signal is pretty much non-farm payrolls are slowing rapidly. And even if we added farm payrolls, like farmers in the Midwest are getting crushed because China hasn't been buying soybeans from the United States, and that's been, and that's a lot of the farm economy in the Midwest part of the United States, and they've been suffering tremendously in the Midwest. Our farmers have been hurt really bad between this Chinese and this United States economic war we got going on. Now, it's not like China's doing any better than the United States. I say, we're looking at a knife fight between two countries, and, both people die in the knife fight. One's going to bleed out before the other one. We're just sitting around seeing which one's going to bleed out first. That's how I view this whole tariff situation and everything going on with this trade war between our two countries, is that it's really just a knife fight, and the Chinese economy right now is not doing great. I know people in China who work in China, who are Chinese, live in China, and their economy is suffering tremendously. And I think one of the things we have going on in the United States is that we have such a split between the top 10% and everybody else below when it comes to people invested in the stock market and just your general, like say, warehouse workers or retail workers, that the U.S. is not in a great position for jobs, even though 10% of the U.S. population is in a great position right now. And we see this bifurcation, I guess you call it, or K-shaped economy. What they call it is like a K. We do the K, right? And then the top part of the K goes up and the bottom part of the K goes down. We have but that top part of that K is pretty tiny, and the rest of the United States is pretty big and not doing well. Now, there's other things we could look at, which is quit rates, because quit rates have been dropping pretty rapidly. I think we're at like 1.9% for a quit rate. Back during 2008 2008 during that big financial crash. The quit rate was down to 1.3%. So we don't have far to go on quit rates before we're identical in a lot of different categories of the 2008 recession. And so we really have this two-tiered economy. So I was saying before, the K-shaped economy, it's really a two-tiered economy. So you have a growth is concentrated in tech, AI, mostly AI. AI, I would say, is pretty much generating 80% of the GDP growth right now that we're seeing, those GDP reports that we're seeing. AI is driving a ton of that right now. Brick and mortar or broader economy is not driving any of it. I'd say it's flat or even down at this point. So what does this all mean for bike shops? Pretty much all of it means slowing macro demand means upgrade purchases and things like that are just not going to happen. I have inventory risk. If demand dips, I have inventory risk on my floor. That's just cash sitting on my floor. I'm approaching Black Friday in a much different way where you probably wouldn't want to move stuff near cost. And I'm considering moving stuff near cost at Black Friday because I don't want this cash just sitting on the floor over the winter. Financing and inventory costs. So if you have elevated debt and elevated interest rates at the same time, you're getting squeezed in both directions. Elevated debt, elevated interest rates. So I've been very cautious with debt. Every single bike on my floor and every single thing in here, I own it. So the shop owns it, which is good news. Besides a small loan, that's just an extended loan that I'm just going to pay off. Local resilience matters, I think, right now in this economy because it's so bifurcated, even if that's the right word. I don't know, bifurcated. If the economy's so bifurcated, like my local market may be better than other local markets. That may have been my saving grace here, is that my local market right now may be doing better. And you may see that in your area as a bike shop is you'll have to not just gauge nationally what's happening nationally, but you'll have to also gauge how is your local market doing by just getting it out and about in your local market. I think having operational flexibility is going to be key here in 2026. So that's lean staffing, that's super focused marketing, that's local community engagement and getting people engaged. We're going to do some fantastic stuff in 2026 with that. I have somebody who's going to help me with that. They've volunteered to help, and I am so thankful. It's weird because I feel at times these magical people just drop into my life and during this business journey, and the fact that I don't get scared about allowing people to do things around my business, and I say yes to a lot of things, has opened tremendous opportunities for me if I was just sitting back and saying, no, I don't need that. I don't need your help. I don't need that. I don't need your help. I don't want to do that. That's made all the difference for me in 2025, so I'm going to continue that in 2026. So I'm going to keep tracking weekly metrics, which is walk-ins, what's selling well on the floor, focus on cash flow and try to remove this inventory that I have sitting on my floor. I honestly have too much inventory right now in November on my floor. Second year mistake. I should have probably calmed down with that a bit. I'm going to monitor national data, like the JOLTS reports, non-farm payrolls, and see how we head into winter and when we'll come out of that. So if demand softens, we got to shift to maintenance. We got to probably do maintenance packages at a discount over the winter or something like that. We have to maybe expand some of this inventory. If it ain't going to move, maybe it becomes a rental bike. There's maybe some of this stuff we take in used bikes and we create an eBay store and we sell them on eBay. Really, Go Grava needs to be working any avenue they can in these uncertain times. If you own a bike shop, what is your walk-in foot traffic trend? What is your average ticket size? Those are the things I look at. What is your average inventory turn? What's your debt burden? What's your local market and community look like? So, the national signals suggest headwinds. That's what I'm seeing right now. But local execution and adaptability will determine whether your shop, thrives or stays alive, or which ones crack. So, bike shops starting to crack may have to look at new methods, and I'm planning that now. Like I'm already beginning the planning phase of 2026. Like I'm planning all of 2026 already now that we're in November of 2025 and it's ending. And I'm getting ready for that. And I need to prepare myself mentally. I need to take some time off over Christmas. But yeah, thank you for listening and watching. You know, you can reach out to me if you want. You can post a comment in here and tell us how you're doing as a bike shop, anything that you've changed, your own tactics if you're brick and mortar. You can follow me on YouTube, Instagram is gograva.us, Facebook is gograva. Here at YouTube, we're at gograva. But let's keep this conversation going, I think. How is your market behaving? What are you seeing locally? And how are you going to adapt in 2026 so you don't completely crack? You know, little tiny cracks in your business are okay. We can patch those up. We can adjust and maneuver, but you don't want the whole thing splitting in half. At least that's what I'm hoping for. Such a critical year for me. Third year in business is so critical that I am probably, again, going to be working harder than I ever have before in my life in this third year of a bike shop, keeping this brand going because, again, this is a bucket list item for me. I've done a lot in my life, and having a successful bike brand was an early, probably in my 20s thing I wanted to do. And it was like the last big bucket list item I had left besides traveling the world and doing some different rides, bike rides and stuff like that. So until we talk again, what is the economy going to do? I have no idea. National headwinds, local tailwinds, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But until we talk again, I got to get back to work. I have a ton of stuff to do. My next video is going to be how to check in an e-bike or e-scooter at your local bike shop if you want to get into the realm of fixing e-stuff, which is 56% of our business, which is really high. So, see ya.